Today we're taking a look at Avalanche's Avax coin, performing some technical analysis and making some predictions as to where we can expect to see Avax go in the near future. Let's get into it. Welcome back into the Avax chart. Guys, if you'd like to buy Avax or want some free Bitcoin, there are a couple of links down in the description of today's video. Unfortunately, Avax has now fallen out of our uptrend, but our last analysis was smack bang on exactly what we had expected. We were hoping to see that we'd have a breakout, of course, of this slight downtrend along our long-term uptrend and a test of up here our 50-day moving average sitting at a value of $81.95, and that was on the 20th of April, and that test certainly did occur. But unfortunately, the continuation of our uptrend did not hold itself out, and this is largely due to the fact that the overall crypto market unfortunately did drop. So as a result of that, we have now fallen outside of our uptrend, as you can see here. Unfortunately, I'll just zoom in, get a bit better perspective there. And you can see now we're sitting at a value of $68. Now, how are we going to basically deal with this situation now? Well, unfortunately, it's looking like until the rest of the market picks up, we're going to continue downwards. So we really need to take into account where our key points of support and, of course, resistance are going to be. But before I put those lines in place, I just want to point out a few key things that have occurred over the past week or so. Firstly, we've had a cross of the 20-day moving average below the 50-day moving average. Now, obviously, that is indicating to us that we are moving downwards on the short term. Secondly, though, we have had an appearance of the 200-day moving average. And unfortunately for us, that was also crossed below by that 20-day moving average as well. It's looking like at this point in time the 50-day was never above it, but unfortunately these two crosses are indicating that for at least the short to medium term we will be downtrending. Now, I'm going to keep this upwards trend in place for now because it is a good reference point for us in the future. What we need to establish now is basically where are our key points of support and resistance. So horizontally, what we want to look for is where there has been bounces and a lot of price action in the past. So let's just take up to where we are currently. Is there a point of support there? And I'd suggest that probably there actually is. And it's smack bang on exactly where we are sitting at the moment. We are sitting on a key point of support for us at $68. And the reason I say that is because you can see this $68 mark historically has acted as a major point for bounces as well as breakouts in the past. So you can see over here it has been rested upon multiple times. You can see over here it was bounced off, it was rested on, broken above multiple times there. As we start to zoom out as well, you'll see that it was a major catalyst for breakouts and of course testing points previously. So $68 is a crucial point for Avax. So we're going to put that one basically in place and leave it there now. Now, if this were to fail, where would we be going down to? Well, we'd be going down to obviously a lower level. Obviously, that is something we don't want to see, but is something we now need to take into consideration. Unfortunately, that uptrend was very important for us to maintain, and it certainly hasn't been. So from a short-term trading perspective, we need to continue to map out our worst case scenarios, which it's looking like we are seeing. $64, not too far off, is actually another major point. You can see a bounce occurred on the 24th of February there. You can see plenty of price action here as well, acting as another major point of resistance and support for us historically. That is realistically the next point we need to put in place. Therefore, that is, in my opinion, worst case scenario for the next few trading days. And the reason I say that is due to the fact that we still haven't fallen through our $68 point of support yet. We're going to see within the next 24 hours, I think, if we're going to bounce off that and start moving in this sort of a direction, or if we're going to continue moving downwards. And it's really not going to be dictated by Avalanche or Avax itself, or even the Terra ecosystem. It is going to be dictated by what Bitcoin does and what Ethereum does. So we've got to wait and see what happens over the next 24 to 48 hours. But I suppose we can take into consideration a few other factors. Firstly, our red zone we are seeing down here, obviously as a result of all these red days we've seen, is showing that the volume hasn't actually been high, yet it's driving the price down. To me, that's just indicating people aren't buying, but the sell volume is still relatively low. So we're not seeing people dump either, which is pretty interesting considering that the overall uptrend had failed. To me, that shows long term at least there is a lot of confidence in Avax and Avalanche as a whole. Let's have a look at a few more indicators. Let's have a look at the RSI first. The RSI is moving, and it's moving towards the oversold mark. We're currently sitting at 33.62. When we hit that oversold mark, like we saw back over here on the 22nd of January, we will hopefully see a massive reversal in the value of Avax, and hopefully we see what we saw over that period, because it indicated for us a nice change in the trend and we started moving upwards. If that were to occur, what we'd ideally be aiming for is getting back into this uptrending line that we have in place at this point in time. That would be best case scenario, but we're still moving towards the oversold mark. I'm expecting the only thing that will stop that is a bounce at this $68 mark. Otherwise, we fall into oversold and we are very, very much overdue for a reversal in price action. Let's have a look at the MACD now as well. The MACD, as I mentioned in my last video, it was looking very horizontal to each other. So what we need to keep in mind is we have not seen the end of this yet. And this is clearly indicated by the fact that we thought we'd seen the peak in the 12th. It was moving downwards and downwards, but unfortunately we're now seeing an increase in obviously the selling, and of course that means our moving averages continue in a downwards direction. Now we really need to see a sharp curve up for a cross to occur, so something in that sort of effect there. If we continue to see this parallel sort of movement, or even a weak cross, and an example of a weak cross would be over here in the start of March, where we see barely any across and, you know, swoop back down, that is not good for us. We need to see convincing crosses, much like we saw at the end of January over here, where we saw the 12-day EMA swoop up in a very, I suppose, aggressive manner, and crosses very evidently on the MACD, not weakly like we've seen over here. So continue to watch this. We have not necessarily seen the peak of this second red wave we are seeing now, but that will be, in my opinion, dictated by whether we bounce off the $68 mark or not. Taking all things into consideration, where do I think we're going? Well, quite simply, if Bitcoin doesn't recover, we're going to the $64 mark, or even potentially lower. So potentially lower, I'd be suggesting that, you know, we have the 50 range on the cards. If we are to bounce, I think best case scenario for us at this point in time is to realistically just maintain that $68 level. Hopefully, maybe we'll see some sideways trading action, so we start moving in this sort of a direction, as opposed to, you know, a dump straight through there. From that, what is the most likely prediction in my opinion? Well, I'm really thinking we may see the $64 mark, but I'm hoping best case scenario for us, as I mentioned, $68. That wraps up our Avax analysis for today, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. Of course, if you did enjoy today's video as well, make sure you do leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this sort of content, hit subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. I'll leave it there for today, guys. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.